The Afghan army said 3 provinces in southern and western Afghanistan are facing critical security situations as fighting intensifies between the Taliban and Afghan forces. Fighting in the war-torn South Asian country has escalated as the United States and NATO troops plan to complete their pullout by August the 31st after 20 years of war. The Taliban is now trying to seize provincial capitals after already taking smaller administrative districts in recent months. Afghanistan's President Ashraf Ghani has blamed the country's deteriorating security on the United States deciding abruptly to withdraw its troops. Presenting his security plan before Parliament on Monday, Ghani said the situation in the war-torn nation will be under control within 6 months. And global affairs analyst Joshua Onyewere joins me on the news from Finland via Skype to discuss this. Good to have you join us. So, Joshua Onyewere, if you can hear me, when former President Trump started out with these peace talks between the Taliban and the Afghan government, it seemed like there was some hope that peace would finally return to that country. Did you envisage this war in that moment?
Thank you. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Yes, well, that would be an overstretch for any speculation of peace in that region in the coming months, because as things stand at the moment, the Afghan forces are gaining ground, and with every ground they gain, it comes at the cost of many lives. As you might have seen from recent reports, hospitals and refugee camps are quickly filling up, and many lives have been lost. So as the foreign troops continue to pull out their forces, the fate and the future of 38 million Afghan citizens is far from certain at the moment, unless the government quickly finds a way to fill that gap of the withdrawing allied forces and broker peace with the Taliban forces. However, and quite unfortunately, we won't be seeing any peace deal, as both sides have been throwing blames at each other, and threatened at the center of these blames is that peace deal.
But in that historical moment, as it were, when former President Trump was able to get both sides to talk, or at least agree to talk, did you see that this was coming? Was there any point in that arrangement that made you think, look, there is trouble ahead?
Yes, one thing is certainly in this conflict, the Taliban forces are so much more organized than the Afghan government, because as a government, you have the political issues. They are they are not having any agreement on how to proceed with the peace deal, as against the Afghan forces. The Taliban forces that have a clear agenda of what they want to achieve and are pursuing that agenda. So this has dashed a terrible blow on the peace deal that was negotiated a couple of months ago. And also, let's not forget that any full-blown war in Afghanistan could potentially spill into neighboring countries. And this raises legitimate concern for countries that has border, countries like China, like Pakistan and Iran, to be involved in the peace process. Just to bring another key point. Recently, the Chinese foreign minister, sharply criticized the United States withdrawal as a proof of failure of U.S. policy towards Afghanistan. So what we would expect now, that the United States forces are pulling out and the NATO forces are pulling out, is for countries within that region that shares border with Afghanistan to start to negotiate deal And this is what we have seen
Joshua,
China continue to do.
I want to get
the
to the kind of help or support that can be rendered by regional powers in a moment. But let's look at the statement recently made by the president of Afghanistan, Ashraf Ghani. He has now said that there's now a security plan in place to take back the regions from the Taliban in 6 months. The details of that has not been spelled out, we understand, because of the security implications. But what chances do the Afghan forces have against the Taliban right now? And does Afghanistan have 6 months?
The chances the Afghan forces have is quite slim. And as we have noticed in the three regions that are vulnerable already, the Lashkar, the Kandahar, and the Herat region, we have seen the Taliban forces continue to, claim more territories in those regions. So unless there is, a concerted effort, particularly with peace deal, because the Americans and the NATO troops are clear on what they want to do: pull out before 31st of August. Unless there is a clear plan on what to do, particularly with going into engaging, for instance, Russia, the Russian troop and the Uzbekistan troop, which have countries that have committed to helping the Afghan government in protecting the border. Unless that is done as soon as possible, the Taliban will continue to gain more territories.
Now, when we talk about these regions being taken by the Taliban, we talk about them as just regions, but they are actually people who live in that region. So we're talking about people who are now afraid of it for their lives. Some are fleeing the country already. There are young girls who are afraid of being bombed for daring or attempting to go to school. These are the issues. And you've talked about help being rendered. What sort of help can be rendered in a way that you're not just claiming territories, but you are ensuring that the people's lives matter and the humanitarian crisis can be contained?
Absolutely. One of the help which China has been proposing and has been pushing for is engaging the Taliban in discussion, not just seeing the Taliban as a terrorist organization, but engaging them actively to be part of the peace process rather than being seen as an opposition. We have seen also the United Nations now making a statement. The European Union making a statement saying that if the Taliban gains ground through brute force, then they will not recognize them. And this is sending a message to the Taliban forces that, hey, you guys, you have to come to the table for dialogue. There is a peace process that is already in place that we should abide by it for peace to reign in Afghanistan. So there are already, what we're already seeing is a change in tone as the United Nations and the NATO troops continue to pull out.
But let me ask you, because it seems like the Taliban is back to its original intention of creating an Islamic Emirate. That was his original intention. It looks like it's back to that. Does that seem like a group that wants to come to the table for a peace talk, or that seems like a group that really wants to take power by force?
Well, based on their actions, apparently they want to take power by force. What will follow, I think, let's look at it this way. What the Taliban forces are saying, to the international community is remove the restrictions that you have on our, generals. Allow them to have free international movement. Allow them, remove all the sanctions that you have. So in a way, they recognize the importance of the sanctions or the implication of the sanctions, and they are asking that the international communities to reduce or to remove them. So in this case, this provides an opportunity for the international community to say, okay, fine, we're going to do this, But on your own part, don't abuse the human rights of the citizen of the Afghan citizens. So it's a carrot and stick approach. Both sides have their strong and their weakness points, and I think only going back to the dialogue table to have a real negotiation can bring about the peace that Afghan citizens will enjoy for a long period of time.
It is a really devastating situation, especially for the, in quotes, ordinary Afghans or civilian Afghans who are just looking for an opportunity to live in this war. Thank you so much for talking to us. We hope that this is resolved anytime soon. Global Affairs Analyst Joshua Oniwere.
Thank you for having me.